So most engineers would have at some point found themselves facing the question, how long will it take, from a client or upper management? And usually your knee-jerk reaction is to try and explain the Agile philosophy and what makes it good and what makes it appropriate for software development. And you probably would have found also that didn't really go down very well. So I thought, instead of trying to explain in words, I would build a analogy of sorts to see if I can invoke the same feeling of why software is the way it is and why we use Agile to approach the problem. So you can find this link in the description. Calling it a game is probably maybe a bit of an overstatement, so you're more than welcome to accuse me of using clickbait in the title, but I didn't really know what else to call it, so game is what we have. The challenge, the goal of the game here is to find a hidden goal in the shortest distance traveled. Use the temperature gauge to guide you. So you can just hit play. So the premise is you are on a map here, and there is a hidden goal on this map. You can cheat to show you where that goal is, and you can reset the map to move it around. If you obviously deactivate it, then it moves it around, and you can walk around by clicking. So if you look at the temperature gauge here, this is your sense of how close you are to the goal, but you don't know in which direction or exactly how far it is from you. And so you are basically playing this game of hot and cold, seeing how the temperature changes, but changing your direction to try and find where this thing is. And obviously at some point you overshoot it a bit, and then you hopefully make a correction, and it should be here. There we go. And then your score here is the absolute distance divided by the actual distance that you traveled. So if you first give this game to someone, they usually start off just wildly clicking around, sort of almost playing a game of Minesweeper, to try and find the goal, and very quickly they realize, oh, well, this is not really working, and then they'll probably reset, and maybe you'll start seeing the gears turning, that maybe click around a bit, and maybe towards the end start refining maybe a search, and then inevitably, hopefully, they'll land on the solution to say, well, the best way to get there is to just really take these small little steps and monitoring that temperature more aggressively. And it should be pretty obvious, but usually this leads to by far the shortest solution that you can get. So this should all be very obvious to engineers, but just in case you wanted to give a sort of explanation, I have a why here. Really the key takeaways here is that without a sense of what you want and some feedback to that, you can't play this game. So this temperature gauge is essential. Then taking these tiny steps, you are not measured by how many steps you take, you are just measured by the total distance. And so taking more steps with fast feedback allows you to take a shorter path. But it's basically an evolutionary model with constant experimentation through variation and selection. What this means practically for engineers is really to try and keep your software development lifecycle as short as possible. And most of us should be very familiar with this curve where, the later in this life cycle you have to make a change, the more painful it is on everyone. In a future version of the game, I actually want to add a dial that you can change the time. You can add a time delay between clicks, and so that if you click, you have to wait a second for this temperature gauge to update, and maybe 2 seconds or 5 seconds, and to show as you change this dial that people's knee-jerk reaction will be to try and take longer and longer steps, since they are now waiting. Actually, it gets annoying to wait, and that again shows that the more you focus on having an efficient iteration cycle, the more motivation you'll have to try and take small step experiments. Cool, that's it. Let me know what you think. If you really like it, if you use it and you find it's very useful, buy me a coffee, and also feel free to explore some of the resources I've linked here that sort of inspired this model. Thanks.